Listeners everywhere, welcome to the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan, the weekly fix for your screen addiction and a trusted source for discussion of all things film and television. Please keep in mind that for the purposes of this podcast, Joel and Ryan are not acting as journalists, but rather fellow moving picture enthusiasts. All of their opinions should be taken as such. Also, please be warned that while Joel and Ryan may seem like petulant children, they are, in fact, adults who may occasionally use adult language. While they promise to bleep out all the worst words, it's a good bet you will still understand what they were saying. And now, with no further ado, here's Joel and Ryan.
Hey everybody! Welcome to the award-winning, the BAFTA-nominated, the Academy Award watching podcast. No, actually, we're not an Academy Award watching podcast. That's not. We take a stand
not for a couple of years, but it seems like they're coming back to the light somewhat. The Academy. We'll keep an eye on that for you.
But we also have been. We won a Grammy. We won. Let's see, what are the awards? We won a baked carrot from the Society for Unpleasant Gifts. We won
I don't really understand that one. What's so unpleasant about a baked carrot?
Well, I know. I think that's the play on it. Yeah, I think that they're like, oh, people think that this is bad, but then you get it, and you're like, oh my god, I really like this.
I didn't even know I wanted a baked carrot until I was consuming this, and now I'm just thrilled. Yeah, that's true.
All right, and the lifetime achievement in sad songs are Nature's Onions award for sentimentality. The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Welcome. I am Joel.
I'm Ryan.
And of course, we have a super awesome special guest. Yes, we have if you were watching, the two people, and apparently my dad might start watching. So hi, Dad. If you start watching the video version of this.
Hey, Joel's dad. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, Joel's dad.
Yeah. But good friend of the show, Brian Crossland, is here.
Yay. I'm back.
Brian joins us for a very special episode. And now, normally when we say special episode, that means that we're entering into like a 6-parter where we're going to talk and really break down, or maybe do 9 volumes of a year in review or something. That's not what this is, though. This is about a man, a fine man, a good man.
A man that's so impressive that you had to go out and get new apparel for it. And folks, to tell the kids, it's quite trippy. So go on YouTube and watch this.
Yeah, it is a tribute show to the one, the only William Hootkins.
William Michael
Hootkins.
Yep. And who is Hootkins, you might ask? Well, I mean, come on. William Hootkins has been seen in some of your favorite films. You just might not know that you saw him. If you are watching the video version, you know him, of course, as Jack Porkins in Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. But before we get to that, we're going to get to all of that. We're going to get to that. Let's check in with our good friend, Brian. How are you, Brian?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Oh, it's April.
Sometimes it snows in April, as the man says.
Sometimes it snows in April.
Yeah, 10 inches from a blizzard.
Yep. Yeah, listeners and viewers of the show, long time, we're Minnesota based, and
proudly so on most days.
And we just got a dumbass snowstorm. And it was
although better the snow than the tornadoes. Good Lord in heaven.
That's true. Yes, I mean these
same storm, but at this point we were almost blessed to be too cold for that stuff up here.
Yes, that is a very good point. And but that being said, we still had to.
It still sucked. It puts us in the top 5 all-time Minnesota snowfalls on record, and there's potentially more snow coming Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're feeling a little shell-shocked and a little just a little bit obstinate toward the weather right now. I think that's a natural feeling.
Yeah, the April Fools on all of us here in Minnesota was that we thought we were getting spring.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Oh yeah, because we did have some very nice weather.
It was a false spring.
Twas indeed.
Yeah.
All right. So we've already done.
If you don't have anything better to talk about, you will restrict your comments to the weather. I think we've shown that that's how you do that with wit and a survivalist attitude.
Yep. Oh, you betcha.
You betcha. All right. Brian's not even technically. I mean, he's lived here forever, but he's an East Coast boy, and he's got his you betcha down.
Well, he's one of them Chesapeake people. That's not exactly East Coast. You're not quite to the East Coast yet, are you, Brian?
No, really, it was outside of Washington, D.C., so that, the Potomac was there.
Yeah, but
there you go.
That tributary, and,
I'm just saying, you fit in here better than, probably you maybe thought at first. It's not like coming from Baston or something like that.
Baston, yeah. It's definitely been more welcoming than I had anticipated. That's for certain.
And you got the impression down, so you fit right in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People would never know. People would never know you're not from here.
No,
no, not in the slightest.
All right. Well, we gave a little introduction to Mr. William Michael Hootkins. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be breaking down some of the iconic performances, and we're going to make you go, "Oh, that's right, he was that guy." Hopefully at least like 4 or 5 times in this show.
Well, we've always threatened to do that. I mean, we've talked about great character actors, but we've talked about mostly pretty renowned, very famous, almost movie star people. This guy's one of those that guys that we always say we're going to do a show on, but never do. And I really do feel like we picked the right one to kick things off with, at least for if you're of our generation. No offense to the ladies who we really cherish and adore, but if you're a dude, I just really think you're going to connect with the memories that come up in the show. That's the hope anyway. And it's a countdown, not in order, but hey.
But it is a countdown of a sort. So let us indeed count down some of the greatest performances by good old Hoot William Hootkins.
10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Red 5 standing by.
3, 2, 1.
I'm always red 2, so I can't. Sorry, you started in a bad place. Look at the size of that thing. See, I even know my lines, but we just.
Stay on target. Stay on target. I need a sandwich. I think that was.
Got the chatter.
I think that was cut.
Got the chatter, Red 2. That's the next line after mine. Thanks. Good job. Good job, Red Leader.
Yep.
Gold Leader.
Was Red 2? Well, that wasn't Biggs, was it? Was Biggs?
Red 2 was Wedge.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was Wedge. That was right.
Yeah. I can't remember what Biggs was. Red. I mean, somewhere right in there. Red 4, maybe.
Yeah. Red 5.
And our beloved William Hootkins is credited in the film Star Wars: A New Hope. First time I ever saw him in anything, as Red 6. But to you Star Wars insiders out there, you know him better. You know his whole backstory. You know everything there is to know about him, because that's how it's done in Star Wars fandom. He's better known as Jack Porkins.
Jack Porkins!
The only overweight person in the entire Star Wars: A New Hope.
Yep.
And his name is Porkins. And
we
can talk about what that means, but
1977, man. Got
because
away with a lot of shit in the 70s.
I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. There's a lot to talk about with Jack Porkins, but the very next appearance on our list, he stars in Hanover Street as a character named Beef.
Beef.
This is the kind of cat we're talking about, and he definitely understood what the character, in his case, in the term character actor, meant. You know, a little bit of, I don't know much about him. I mean, he's done some interviews and stuff because he is part of these fandom like projects. But the thing I do know about him is that he was a good friend of more famous character actor John Lithgow. John suggested that he train at Lambda in England, and almost all of these for a while, it gets a little more diverse as it goes, but almost all of these are Hollywood films made in Britain that needed somebody who could play an American. And so there are a lot of Canadians. We've talked about this phenomena. John Ratzenberger. There's a big long list of guys who were in these same group of movies, essentially, all shot in England, that could convincingly play Americans. Hoot was an American with a British, screen union card, and could show up for all these. And I mean, he as a character actor, as one of the three chubby guys, he was the one who basically won all these roles. It was a cottage industry for the man, and it's one that we're super grateful for, because one thing he did, and even in Star Wars, even in this tiny role where half his face is covered and it's sitting in this little cockpit that's on a gimbal, and interacting with nobody else or nothing else in real life, he gives a memorable performance. Part of it is he's a chubby X-Wing fighter whose name is Porkins. That's just memorable. That's just how it goes. His death, his sense of denial when his machine starts to go bad and starts to break up, we all sympathize with that, because he goes down thinking everything's going to be okay. That whole assault, the whole Dam Busters recreation, that assault on the Death Star at the end of the early reviews came out, and Roger Ebert thought it was too long and too repetitive and all this, but it's like, we were just reenacting it before the show started, and while the show was starting, and we know every single thing in that. What part of that would you take out, Brian? Nothing, right?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Not a second of it.
Nope.
And I encourage you, I hate to say this because it just adds to the stereotyping of the Porkins character, but there's a fantastic animated GIF out there where Porkins is trying to hold his X-Wing together, and he's holding a burger in one hand and a thing of fries in the other instead of his steering wheel. And he's doing this like he's trying to eat the burger before he blows up. And it's weird. Yeah, it's a little demeaning. Okay, I admit it. It's true. I'm a little overweight too, and I don't really like, but
same, hand up.
But it also, in a weird way, you guys, it adds to the tragedy, because he barely touched those fries before he went down in flames. Indeed. And I just feel like that's one of the greatest non-William Riker animated GIFs of all time, and I encourage you to go out there and check it out. But
there's
Porkins on its face. What is he? What happens to him? What's the deal?
Porkins. I got it. I'm on Wikipedia, which that's the big old star. I had no idea. Well, first of all,
they've worked it all out for this guy.
They really have. Jack Tono Porkins. So we have a middle name, Tono. Jack Porkins. And here's the thing: the guy's last name is Porkins, nicknamed Piggy. He doesn't need a nickname. Why
Plus,
would
of
you
all the
ever
Star
call
Wars
him
names, and we'll get to this later, but of all the Star Wars names, they're all shit you've never heard of before in your life. Why is the fat guy get named Porkins and has a pig nickname?
Yeah.
How did that survive the special edition cuts?
It's in the alternate universe.
Yeah,
like, it's not canon.
The canon appearances. I mean, he's in a whole bunch of novelizations and comic books. that are apparently officially canon. He's apparently Poe Dameron mentions him several times in a Poe Dameron comic. So his fighter appears in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Mm-hmm. It's I mean,
along
so he was
with most of the rest of Red Squadron, and
he was a traitor who left his homeworld of Bestine 4 after the Galactic Empire moved in and built a military base, and he joined the Alliance to the Rebels. He was reassigned to the Alliance's main base on Yavin 4 and was placed under the command of General Antok Merrick as a seasoned rebel pilot. This is insane. After a battle near Kashyyyk, Biggs Darklighter suggested that Porkins take a vacation on the planet Earth, only to find out that where they were vacationing was already reserved by an Imperial officer. Porkins.
Just didn't have very good luck. He did the right thing, but he didn't have very good luck.
Porkins and Darklighter, the Adventures of Porkins and Darklighter. When are we getting that Disney Plus series?
It's probably coming. But you know what? This speaks to the power of Hootkins as an actor to have inspired people now 40 years on to still write and add to the story of a character who has probably 6 seconds to 10 seconds of screen time.
Yeah, maybe 15 even, but it's less than half a minute of screen time, I would say for sure.
That's how much of an impact he made on our psyche in 1977 and afterwards, for all those who weren't watching it then. But like right there, that performance was powerful enough that somebody said, "No, here's his whole backstory." And they even have Piggy in school. Like
they even have the night before the Battle of Yavin. Porkins dished out drinks for his fellow pilots at base.
Of course,
1.
he dished out drinks. Dished. Yep.
Yeah,
let's just keep that theme rolling.
So Red 6 was so here. This is what you're talking about, Brian. He was apparently Red 6 was he was one of the wingman for Zal Dinis. He and Nozo Natan were the wingmen. Yeah, we're not getting Nozo stories. We're not getting Zal stories. We're getting Porkins stories. Mm-hmm. And of course, Porkins' last words were, "No, I'm all right." Apparently, over 3 decades later, Porkins was remembered through the Porkins Belly Run, a resistance flight maneuver named in his honor. Whilst traveling aboard, thank God someone put whilst traveling aboard the Millennium Falcon following the Battle of Crate, BB-8 told R2-D2 about the death of the Abednego pilot Elo Atsi, who also went by the call sign Red 6, and R2 told him that they had lost a Red 6-2 in the Battle of Yavin. So he apparently has
2 of the most important battles in the history of the Rebel Alliance's fight against the original Empire. It's not. I mean, he was in the right place at the right time for sure.
Yep, Jack. Yep. Oh, Porkins.
And we will never ever forget his sacrifice. But again, there's not much to it. There's no context. There couldn't have been any sense at Elstree in 1976 that this movie was going to be anything. And even his experience with it was almost nothing. I don't know if he's there somewhere during the briefing or something, but I don't remember seeing him. It really does feel like that cockpit work was the only work that he did. And he is memorable. It is written in a memorable way, to be fair. All these guys are Red Leader, the guys who have moments. Biggs, even before he's introduced to us as something more than he was, is memorable is definitely memorable in that final assault. But Porkins is, it's cool. I'm going to hold it together like that. That's a little extra bit of humanity in there that he plays the reality of, just to give him credit, give him actual credit as an actor, all pig related joking aside. It's great. It's great. And I don't know if it's worthy of all this. I mean, I think it had to be in Star Wars to get this sort of attention, obviously.
Yeah.
But but still, why not? I mean, absolutely, why not him? There's a lot for your entertainment dollar in those less than half a minute of screen time. There's a ton of personality there that you can imagine from. Yep. And that's what we did with our little action figures and our stuff. We took these guys that we barely knew and only saw for a second and created this myths and our own little stories out of them. And that was the magic of growing up with Star Wars. And he's as big a part of that as anybody in that category. I really do think that. So it wasn't his debut as an actor or anything, but it was definitely his get ready for a lot more parts like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Kind of thing. It was his arrival on the scene for sure. That's my
Here's
opinion.
what I'll say about William Hootkins. We could possibly say that this was where William Hootkins grew up, because in his appearances on like TV and other small movies, he was credited by Bill Hootkins. Bill Hootkins. So it's like in Star Wars, though, he grew up, and from that point on, he was he was Bill Hootkins and a couple other things, but he primarily was William Hootkins. Porkins.
But there's a lot more to this man that was than like some of the things that we get here, right? So we say, okay, he had other acting stuff. When I looked into his history, born in Dallas, Texas in 1948. He grew up in Dallas, Texas. He went to the St. Mark's School of Texas for like grades 1 through 12. And the thing that struck me was he was in the same acting group as Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones was a year older than him, and he said Jones got all the best parts because he looked better. And that's at that point I knew I would just be supporting actor for everything that I ever did. And when you look at his history as a human being, it's like, yeah, you are like little supporting actor credits. When he was 15 years old, the lady he was taking Russian classes from, Ruth Payne, was the same lady who was renting a room to Marina Oswald and her children in 1963. So Hootkins was interviewed by the FBI because he knew Payne, and Payne had been renting to Oswald, who had assassinated Kennedy. Like,
allegedly.
Like, what the hell? Yeah, allegedly. But it's like everything you do is some sort of crazy supporting actor point. So he knew Russian. He left when he where did he go? He went to Princeton to study astrophysics. He was studying astrophysics at Princeton before transferring to study Oriental studies, where he learned and became fluent in Mandarin.
Yep.
Like, not a dumb guy.
He's an effing Renaissance man.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. I mean, and those coincidences and those connections, Lithgow and Tommy Lee Jones and stuff, like, it shows up in the work. There's a knowingness to the work. He gets playing second fiddle to Tommy Lee Jones. Yeah. He understood what he was going to be out there in the world in a way. I think we're all the star of our own show. If you're really talented for a time, you really do get to be the star of your own show, particularly when you're a kid. And you got to wake up to how you actually fit into the greater scheme of things. And it can take some time to do that, even on a professional level. And you see him at least relatively right out of the canon. Boom. Here he like gets it in a way that like every second counts here.
Yeah.
In a way, even our buddy J.O. Sanders, who talked about how you fit in and your awareness of that and your the way you value that time that you're part of the story, like all that's so important. This guy gets it on a micro level. And I didn't know that about the languages and stuff, taking Russian, taking Mandarin.
Yeah. And got it so early in his life.
Fits with the guy that we know because it's all meticulous stuff.
Yeah.
That makes you a more interesting and well-rounded person, and that's what we see on screen when we meet him in these various, sometimes even clownish characters that he plays. There's tons of detail to the stuff.
Mm-hmm. He was supposed to be Dennis Nedry, He was supposed to be Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park. Oh my God, he would have been amazing.
Oh,
you're fine. Wayne's great. Fine.
With respect to Wayne, who really plays up the douchiness to levels 11. Hootkins would have been great in that role because he would have been just like that, and yet he would have been
more. He would have certainly been more menacing.
Yeah, more menacing, but I also think less. I think there when Dennis goes down in the novel, even though he's up to no good, you feel for him because he just he's the first guy where really they make it clear you guys are just in over your head. Even the dinosaur that gets him isn't even particularly scary at first, and yet it has this ability and is in this. I mean, it's a great Michael Crichton moment because it's intense, and I think. The movie, it plays it pretty intense. It plays it in a horror movie sort of way, but Spielberg's, I think, touch is very light, and I think Bill might have brought, dare I say, just more of that, you're a dick, but you didn't deserve that sort of thing. Right, whereas like Wayne Knight, God bless him, he goes the other way. He's like, no, you deserved it, dude. You're just terrible through and through. That's definitely a way of doing it, but... Hootkins, even at his most obnoxious, the very next movie we're going to talk about is as obnoxious as he ever was as an actor in a part. He has this, like you sort of get it. He has this sort of, you get that there's a person there that's acting like this or doing this, for not for maybe good reasons, but he's good at all that stuff. So
yeah, well, let's bring on the beef here. Let's talk about Hanover Street, with Harrison Ford. I'm trying to, for some reason, I'm not finding my link here.
Well,
anyway.
I'm pretty familiar with Hanover Street, as those of you who watched our Peter Hyams episode know.
Yep.
I'm pretty familiar with all of the minor films of Harrison Ford, so I can with pretty good confidence I can sum this guy up. He only makes one appearance in the movie. Again, he may be in the briefing scenes, but I don't think that he is. I think like Star Wars, he was a ringer who was brought in for this one purpose. Hanover Street's it's Peter Hyams wanting to make an old romantic World War II movie. Two people during a scary time who met on Hanover Street and fell in love
at the worst time.
It's got this weepy John Barry music score, and it's lovely, but it's super old fashioned. Leslie Ann Down and Harrison Ford get into a doomed love affair during the bombing of Britain during World War II, and Harrison who's a very cocky captain of one of these B-12 bombers. If you're into those bombers and those planes, this is like Memphis Belle or any of these other movies. This is a movie you have to see because that stuff, well, not even great. It's hard to explain. If you're into those bombing planes and you missed Hanover Street, it's got a lot of that in it. That's the sort of B plot of it, are these bombing missions that they go on, and then ultimately a spy mission that they go on. And it's well done, and it was made with the real planes, and you know what I mean, functioning. It's not the great big ones with the belly guns, but the size smaller. I can't remember what those are called, but all right. Anyway, because Harrison is a long way to get what beef is, which is really super straightforward, but you do got to understand the context because his being insensitive bastard in this scene is like punctuated by what happens here. Ford gets shaken up. What's weird is that he's a devil-may-care smart-ass hero who, when he falls in love, suddenly cares about getting home at the end of this mission. And he's sitting on the tarmac about to go on a particularly dangerous one, which normally he would lead the squadron through, and he hears something's up with his engine, and he says, "We got to turn back. There's something wrong." And the plane that takes his place gets obliterated in this mission. So he's drinking and he's thinking about what that means and taking the weight of that. And good old Beef, who was in one of the other planes, is at the bar already down. He's already down like 7 shots by the way he's acting. And he comes up to Ford's character. He's like, man, you're so lucky you weren't out there. Whoo! That I've never seen a plane blow into as many pieces. I mean, he just it's this hilarious, stumbling, so drunk, obnoxious performance. And you think he's going to get punched out in a dumber movie, he probably would have, but his sort of second lieutenant sort of gets in between him and Beef survives to drink another day. And again, it is obnoxious, but Beef, there's a line from Sphere. That's, he's having a stress reaction. That's your stress reaction. Yeah. That's what Beef is going through. He was clearly horrified by what he saw, and he's getting drunk to the point that he can't function or emotionally deal with it. So he's just joking about it. And the wrong guy in the wrong place, but that's part of the scene, and it's in the performance. You got to kind of squint to see it because he really is a big clown in this movie. He knows that's what he's got to do, but these guys are coping with they're being on the brink of their own mortality in the only ways they can, and it's different for everybody. And that to me, that's really what the scene is about. Yeah, he's just a total, what's the term? A total foil for our hero in this key emotional moment. But it's more than that. And that's what's cool about it. And believe me, Hanover Street is not some subtle, you know what I mean? It's not some subtle nuanced thing that's full of great stuff, but it just shows you that even a thing like that, works on that level. When the people do it right, the case with a movie like that is the less you're given to do, the more of a blessing it honestly is, because like even Christopher Plummer ends up looking kind of silly in that movie and stuff, and you wouldn't think that possible, but it does happen. So. Beef first, Hootkins, then Beef. What could be next?
Well, I believe next up.
Sirloin?
Sirloin of beef. No, we have Munson. He was a little scientific here.
Yeah.
Who can go scientific in Flash Gordon?
All right, I'm just gonna say it. I know this is a countdown. I know we got a long ways to go. Munson, that cowardly bastard, is my favorite William Hootkins performance of all time. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I just don't think I'm going to be able to sell you on any of the nuances of Munson. I'm not sure there's really any there necessarily. And it's not just Munson. Hootkins' scene partner, when the world gets under attack from Ming the Merciless, his scene partner is none other than the late great Topol, who we lost this past year.
Oh yeah,
and Topol plays the Dr. Hans Zarkov, who's predicted this attack and is a super genius. Built a rocket to space in a greenhouse in the middle of nowhere. It's that kind of adventure. I mean, it's Flash Gordon we're talking about. And his lab assistant / whatever, Munson, who's been helping along this whole time, but you get the impression not really buying in on the level that Zarkov's been buying in the true believer sense. When it's time for the two of them to take off in the rocket to save the Earth, Martin says, "Pooh!" No, is what he says. That's my line read. No. He's not coming. He is going to run. He is going to flee. He is going to cower under a picnic table until the end of the world consumes him, because that is his character. And who, as always, has very little time to convince us of this guy's being scared of this. But, the great thing about Munson is that when you look at him, you're like, Yeah, he's the only one having a reasonable, like, sort of a relatable human response to what's going on. And Topol's great in it. But I need 2 people to control the rocket or whatever. And he's like, I don't care. I'm not going. Forget it. Where's your sense of adventure? I don't have any. Like, Munson is, again, a foil. Turned up to 100. Like there's nothing left on the table at all in this performance. It is clownish and silly, but super fun, and a big practical effects thing. You know, the airplane that Flash and our heroine are on actually crashes into this silo, and he's got to do the jump out of the way of the plane. And I mean, there's no better version of the fake jumping out of the way in screen history than when William Hootkins does it as Munson in Flash Gordon. I wish the whole show could be like this. Like, I wish I knew his performances to the level that I know these first few, because as we get into it, you know, and frankly, as he's in more legit movies and in roles that are, you know, that aren't so silly or comic booky. Although we get a couple of great comic book things too. So I love Munson. I love him. He is exactly what he is on the page, and he's absolutely fully realized in a full-on broad comic sidekick sort of way. And when he leaves the picture, you miss him. He's that funny and that entertaining. And even through the years, before I had seen Flash Gordon 400 times, you know, when I'd only seen it 40 times, you know, you kind of forget he's coming, and here he is, and you're like, oh yeah, this is fantastic. I've dominated the conversation about Munson and Flash Gordon, guys. Anything you want to add to this?
That was fantastic. No one did not want.
What is there to add?
Yeah, exactly. You covered it all. Including the facial.
Yeah, yep. That's really what it is. It's a guy jumping behind a couple of ferns onto a mattress that you can't see, and the movie is clever enough to know that in and of itself is funny. It just doesn't have to be real. And that's the charm of Flash Gordon. It's the thing when I was a kid I didn't really get. I'm like, why does this all look like crap? And why is it all so colorful and fake and stupid? And of course, you grow into that. You realize, well, that's the charm of the thing. It is. It's fake and stupid and over the top and ridiculous. Flash, I love you, but we only have 17 minutes to save the Earth. That's a line from the movie. That is hilarious. But when you're a kid and you think, and you've seen Star Wars a few years earlier, and you think that's what you're going to go see, and you get the Black Hole, or you get Flash Gordon, or you get some of these other things, you're kind of like, that's not how you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet we look back on these things, and our love for them, like our heart softens toward them. And Flash Gordon still pays off because of its silliness. It's so fun, and it invites you to have fun with it at every second. And there's no moment where it doesn't just
building your online
back. It just goes all the way with everything. And that's what Hoot does in his precious moments that he's given, and it's fantastic stuff.
Love it. Munson.
Munson!
Munson!
What's the matter with you? I'm not going. What? This is so funny. Oh my God, it's funny.
It makes me very, very happy here.
It's fun. That's a fun one. Don't miss it.
Rent it now on YouTube, people. Go.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, let's see. I can
and counterattack them.
Crazy. I'm not going up in that.
I can't handle the capsule alone.
Well, you better try.
You better try.
Right, Chief.
Munson! 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 Why are you running away?
Why are you running away? Oh,
we all know why he's running away. I mean, there is a double-edged thing to it. We get it. Yeah. And he does it in a way that you get it. You're like, let's say, if we're really being honest, are we Flash Gordon or are we Munson? I mean, even if you're not all the way Munson, we all got a little Munson in us.
We all have a little Munson.
Yep.
We all are
a little Sir Munson. Robin. He run away and fled and blah blah blah. I mean, it's like sometimes that's Robin. Sometimes that's not. It's not even the dumbest thing to do, honestly.
Oh, Sir Munson. All right, let's go to Sphinx.
Oh boy!
And a quick chat about the tour guide named Don.
Don, the tour guide. So Sphinx was one of a lot of Egyptian adventures of the day. It's written by Robin Cook, based on the novel by Robin Cook, who wrote a lot of medical thrillers and such in the day. He's most famous for writing Coma.
Okay.
And it's the story, again, Leslie Ann Down plays a British archaeologist who goes to Cairo to investigate some archaeological thing that I don't remember, don't care about, and falls in love with very dashing 1981 circa Frank Langella, who may have another agenda, but it's almost a romance novel in its silliness. Gil Good shows up in it, John Rhys Davies shows up in it as a villain. There's all this stuff in it, but it's the fact that it's desert adventure that came out the same year as Raiders of the Lost Ark really hamstrings it into absolute obscurity. Even though Franklin J. Schaffer, who made Planet of the Apes and Patton, he's the guy who directed it. It's a well-directed film, but it's a silly romance novel. It's not got a nice leading lady, which is an unusual thing, honestly, for 1981. You're very capable, very smart, very pretty, all the things you want from a movie star type performance from a sort of non-movie star actor. It's kind of perfect. It's just a little too Hanover Street. It's a little too syrupy. It's a little too silly. Nothing in it really gets you involved. And sadly, you get the sense that everybody working on it knows that. And so they're interjecting stupidity in it at every turn. Every place they can throw the audience a bone of sympathy for getting through this silly romance, they do. And the biggest bone of all comes in the form of, what's his name? Don, a somehow obnoxious, like fired from, Disneyland tour guide who's found himself in Cairo somehow, giving the cheesiest tour of these underground tombs in Cairo to a group of, frankly, equally obnoxious American tourists before some plot point happens that I won't even bother with because it's too difficult to explain and it makes no difference for the point of this discussion. But he's got the whole, okay, everybody, now let's look over here, and this is where the mummies are. You know what they say about the mummies? And he's giving puns, and he's just being totally worthless. And he's like, come here, Mrs. Gradpool, kind of stand real close to me. Sorry, Mr. Gradpool. Like it's unbelievably broad and clownish. And then when they come across the dead body or the thing or whatever that actually happens, that's horrible. Like he's so unimportant that you don't even get their reaction. They just cut away into the next thing. But why? Why did you put him in this? Why is he even there? This character, like, this is not.
Yeah.
In 1980, Egypt does not employ this guy to give tours of this. I mean, it's just the whole thing is like it's transported from another world just to be funny and stupid and full of energy for a second. And of course, no problem. It's a British production company that's making the movie. It's full of almost all British people. So he's an American, an obnoxious American, we'll even say now at this point, working in England, and his passport's in order, and how you like to go to Cairo. The reality is this could have been shot at Pinewood for all I know. I don't think so. The one really great thing about Sphinx is during that era, it really feels, even if it's not, it feels almost 100% shot on location in Egypt, which is which gives the thing value even these many years later after being
5 weeks. 5 weeks of filming in Egypt.
And it makes the most of it. You could tell that's why Schaffner showed up. That's why the thing was even made, was so that because they got permission to do that and they were able to do it at a time when just, big movie had just shot in Egypt, The Spy Who Loved Me. It reminds me of that in terms of how much Egypt it gets for its dollar. It gives you a lot. And it was a trying time to be in Egypt or any of those like Israeli, Palestinian neighboring countries. I mean, there was a lot going on during that that we could forget. So, but it's good. And it's got a lot of great local talent and stuff. So Sphinx is fun. Don, the tour guide, I added the tour guide part. It's just Don in the thing, which is, which it needs more than that. I'm glad they gave him a name, but it's a funny performance that I love. And I promise all of these won't be like this. Eventually I'll stop really remembering much of what he did, but I've seen Sphinx a few times, and Don, man, when Don shows up, he takes stage. I mean, the whole movie, it becomes his movie for just about a minute and a half. And it is funny, but it's also like, you're really kind of undermining your own story here by having this kind of thing in here.
What movie are you in here?
Well, as written, I don't think there's any other way who could play this. He's asked to come in and just nail this stuff in this rapid fire, crazy, obnoxious way. And I mean, he totally does it. So it's a good performance, but it's the wrong scene and the wrong time of the wrong movie, basically.
And it was a busy year for him. Like when you look at his filmography.
Yeah, well, some other things from '81.
Well, our very next film came out in that same year, and that, of course, is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Just Eaton. On the television here, as I walked in the house, Aaron's watching it.
You longtime viewers of the movie show with Joel and I will remember back in our very first episode when we had to pick a favorite movie. Ryan picked Raiders of the Lost Ark. Right? And one of the greatest things about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and everything about it, is unimpeachably great, by the way.
Yeah.
Even the things that are wrong about it just make it more relatable and more wonderful. But one thing that's not wrong about it is it has, for my money, the greatest exposition scene in all of film.
Oh my God!
The scene when Hoot and Don Fellows show up to set the thing in motion. Yep. And the scary G-men pre-World War II who come in and are like, "Hey." And I mean, it's all exposition. The whole thing is exposition. It starts out as one kind of exposition. We had this investigation and we were looking into this stuff, blah, 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 this mission, blah, blah. And then it turns into another kinds of exposition, which is, here's what the Lost Ark is. And here's the legend of it. And it's all just four guys sitting around a table, very wisely a table on a stage in a lecture hall. So there's a scope to it that is really cool to look at. It comes with turning a chalkboard around thing, which is always a great thing. There's old creepy pictures in a book. There's intense music. Fellows and Hootkins, their chemistry together, the way they interrupt each other, particularly the way Hoot interrupts Fellows.
Yeah.
I mean, everything about that scene is so awesome, and what's great about it is it's exact same kind of performance. It's the exact same kind of guy brought in to do this thing and be memorable in a little role, and yet get the job of telling these multiple stories done. And he wisely plays Major Eaton. Straight.
I can't help but to feel like that's like a nod back to Porkins somehow.
Maybe Major Eaton.
Major Eaton. Hey, he's doing
what's Major Eaton?
Even thought it. Oh man, I hadn't even thought of it that way.
I don't know that it's a pun, but it feels a bit like a pun. We can't put anything past these guys at this point.
Yeah.
And hey, maybe maybe Lucas or Philip Kaufman or Lawrence Kasdan or whoever wrote that character's name, maybe that's why we have Hootkins showing up in the role in the first place. So
yeah.
And then instead of chastising them, we kind of have them to thank. Fellows uptight, stick up his butt, stuttering guy mixed with Hoots, like military guy, uncomfortable in his civilian clothes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing is just, Spielberg, Raiders of the Lost Ark. What am I going to do? What am I going to say? It's genius. Every second of it is awesome, but it's genius and it's awesome and it's super entertaining. It's everything you want out of a escapist adventure movie. And there's something more to it. And that something more starts here. First time we hear the Ark theme is in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
These guys ask all the right questions, and our heroes give answers that are well thought out and interesting, even if a bit cynical from our hero. And I just love it. And of course, it's not the last we see of Major Eaton, is it, fellas?
No, it's
before Marsha Lucas said, "Where's the girl? The girl has to come back at the end. What are you doing? Where's Marion? She has to come back. Go make a scene with her in it. I hate this," is basically what she said. And they were like, "Oh, okay, whatever you say." So they went and shot the very famous meeting on the steps, let's go get a drink scene, which the film absolutely needs. Marsha is dead on correct on that.
Yeah.
He almost delivered the last iconic line in Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is "top men."
Yeah.
The way
it doesn't end up being the last line, but it is. The movie as written is supposed to cut from that line to the warehouse and the closing credits. And thank God it doesn't. But nevertheless, he delivers that with last line authority and a full understanding of what the joke is. Mm-hmm. And yet he delivers it straight, because at this point we've seen what the Ark can do. If we're not buying into biblical Old Testament wrath of God type stuff, at least in movie terms, we are totally bought into it at this point. And that scene, well, what do we, the Ark is a thing of incredible power, and it will be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I assure you.
Pipe in my, he's the pipe in my top
men.
The pipe, that, like, as a kid, that stood out to me, the way that he manipulated that pipe and talked, and like it was just an intellectual arrogance that came with it. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And if you think about it, here's Eaton from the beginning of the film to the end. His entire explanation of what the Ark does is in that big, thick ass book.
Yep.
That's it. He didn't see any of this shit that went down throughout the rest of the film. So at the end, he's like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, that's perfect. He
wasn't in it for the Ark or Illumination or any of the things any of these characters are after, the legacy. Yeah. He's just fighting Nazis. That's what's important. Go F yourself if you have any problem with it. Like,
yeah, exactly. Nazis wanted that. Nazis don't get it. It goes into a storage unit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's, we
have top men working on it right now.
Yeah.
Who? Top men.
I love it.
It really, with respect to Munson, who you just heard me gush about, it just doesn't get any better than this. This guy is utilized perfectly. He gets to actually bite off something that he can chew that's genuinely dramatic.
Yeah.
I may be, just because I love him, I may be projecting all this stuff on him that maybe isn't even there, but his openness and your ability to do that with him is what makes the role special and what makes these moments special. So wow, hats off. Yep. If this was to me, this was your Oscar moment. This is an important guy in a really, really good, absolutely culturally significant film that you would never look at and think he was Porkins.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only just a few years later. And I just really think
Major Eaton. Yeah.
Yeah. Such good stuff.
2 of 3 culturally important films that he hits. Like to be that type of character actor, and there's your memorable moments, right? It's like, here, which one do you want to pick?
Yeah.
If he was still alive going to conventions, he'd tell you that everybody, like, what was the quote that I found that he had said? My career in a sense went downhill ever since. And he was talking about A New Hope. Fans still come to the stage door with action figures of my characters in embarrassing photographs for me to sign, right? So that to him was like the pinnacle of the thing. But when you look at it, it's like, dude, you were the character actor of most of our childhoods when it came to these great films all through from the 70s to the 80s. There you were.
Yep. Yeah, every time.
Yeah. So after Raiders of the Lost Ark, it's a string of TV episode one-offs. He's just making an appearance in Maverick, Cagney and Lacey, Remington Steele, things like that. But his next 2 movie roles, is as a taxi driver in both Trail of the Pink Panther and Curse of the Pink Panther.
And click on those. Those are the ones where David Niven actually came back to the franchise, and it's okay. So I am Pink Panthers. Sorry, especially after the first one, I get them mixed up. Even the ones Blake Edwards did, because they just become a sort of jumbled "what are we doing here" mess. But again, this, without getting too into it, because this isn't the performance I'm going to rave about, but this is a guy who is this put upon taxi driver who shows up in the middle of this and is part of some weird chase and just wants, like, in a very Munson way, wants to have nothing to do with it. And then, of course, it all happens to him again in the sequel. That was like a conceit that they did a lot in the Bond movies of this era, and which had a streak of Blake Edwards in them during the Roger Moore films. It's funny, but it's stupid. It's a thing. It's like it's a place where they don't really get the balance right. This is a thing now where, in a Sphinx way, it sort of is undermining whatever little tension you were going to be able to get out of the story. You've made sure at every step that there is none. It's just for laughs, and that's not a sin, but it's harder to get super excited about it. But he is funny. I mean, he's exactly what you'd think. He's what's going on? Hey, wait a minute. I mean, there's not much else to it other than that. It's still funny, and I dig it.
Comedies from the 80s, right?
Exactly. And really broad comedies from the 80s. And it is one of those things that it's not even funny until it happens again. But these were shot very close together, or back to back, or planned together. I believe these 2 films were put together as a package. And so they knew what they were doing. And on that way, it's very well thought out. It's not just, let's do it again. Haha. See if that guy's still available. It really does feel like they set this up for, no, not again. But all it is an, oh no, not again gag. And at this point, that's beneath William Hootkins, in my opinion. So, not much is. As we said, the great thing about Hoot, is that we can sit here and tease him and make fun of all of his poultry and cow related nicknames, and tease him, and he gets it. I mean, nobody had a better sense of humor about this. That's anecdote about waiting at the stage door with the action figure. I mean. I'm sure at some points in his darkest times that annoyed him, but really it's a guy who seemed to get it from the start, what this sort of career was like. And this gag, I mean, it couldn't be any better with a different actor. I can tell you that for sure. So
very cool. Well, we get a turn for the dramatic here in his next film. The next film is a dramatic film, and that is he plays Chuck Malarkey in White Knights.
See, again with the meat jokes, like it's like a thing. Every screenwriter probably sat down and said, "Who are you thinking for this part?" Oh, I'm thinking Hootkins. Oh, yeah, you need to change that name.
You got to change the name from Johnson to Malarkey because
it's Chuck Malarek as actually, but I'm wondering if it auto corrected to Malarkey.
It probably
Chuck
did.
Malarek, Chuck Malarek.
So, and White Knights is not the kind of movie, and this is not a role where he's really comic at all, although he is.
Yeah.
It's White Knights. You're gonna set all that up. White Knights. Say you, say me, and separate lives. That's what most people remember White Knights for, and appropriately so. Those are the best things about it. But it's not a bad movie. Taylor Hackford. It's a story of a Russian ballet dancer who's defected, played by a Russian ballet dancer who defected, Mikhail Baryshnikov, whilst flying over the Ukraine or some sort of Russian protectorate. Well, with protectorate used usually even in this era. The plane is forced to land because of a malfunction, and he is kidnapped back into his own country, essentially by the KGB. And so that's a weird subject for what is essentially a dance movie, but it's not a bad movie. If anything, it's a little dull and not exciting enough, but it's not a bad movie. It's an interesting story. And Malarick just plays the worthless, absolutely worthless, and in that way I guess it is a very Hootkins title role, American diplomat who's trying to figure out what to do here, and the reality is he's not going to do anything. And there's a character like that in a lot of these sort of stories, where it's like, hey, what are you going to do for me? And it's like, well, and then and don't worry, but I'm not going to do anything. You're on your own is basically what it's brought in to do. Yeah. And it does it really effectively, but it is nothing more than that. And there's not a lot of room for him to be goofy, and there's no use of him being goofy. So even though the role is broad and silly when you think about it from its convention, he plays it straight the way you should in a film like this, and so that it's not like it's some well-rounded character, but the character is a diplomat who is trying to make everybody happy, and so will never make anybody happy. And we have seen that character before many, many times.
Let's move on to Biggles, El Viajero del Tiempo.
Biggles, do you want to be a hero?
Biggles, Adventure in Time. Good old Chuck Dinsmore.
Fans of Biggles here on the show today? Biggles, Adventure in Time. Anyone? Anybody?
I gotta admit, I apparently I have a blind spot and did not partake.
I was unaware of the existence of Biggles, an Adventure in Time.
I have not followed the adventures of James Bigglesworth.
Well, okay. Tell me if this doesn't sound like Joel. We're going to break out a synopsis for this bad boy. Let's go.
Daring British World War I fighter pilot James Bigglesworth and 1980s low-level business executive Jim Ferguson discover that they can time travel to each other's eras. They try to stop the Germans from changing the outcome of World War I.
It's a time travel adventure.
Yeah,
time travel adventure with a lot of biplane action scenes in it, and it has a great John Anderson from Yes theme song called "Do You Want to Be a Hero?" And we all want to be a hero. Again, except perhaps the character played by William Hootkins. In this case, it is who?
Chuck Dinsmore.
Who's,
again, Chuck.
Chuck Ground.
Not entirely unmeat related. Biggles is a film where if you were lucky enough to catch it on Showtime and you were the right age, and we all were, you would have been like, well, you would have thought it was as good as these other movies you were watching. And unfortunately, unlike the phenomena we were talking about with Black Hole, maybe, and certainly with Flash Gordon and things of its ilk, Tron, Biggles Biggles shows its seams with age as opposed to you becoming more fond of it. It is really, really broad. The stupid ad executive is really stupid. And even though they do save the day and it's a lot of fun, whatever. But one of the things that works in it is that the people who are making it filled it up with people like who could come in these little roles and just sort of grab your attention so that the thing never dips in energy, even though it is silly to the end and just doesn't have enough resources to be as cool as it wants to be. If you really still like Time Rider, or I call it Dream Snake. I believe it's actually called Dreamscape, but there aren't capes in it. There is definitely a big dream snake in it. So I think it was a typo that got that one let loose on the world. Those sorts of cheap, silly films from that era, Philadelphia Experiment. This kind of movie is that kind of movie, and yet nobody really saw it because it really does feel like one of those that poof went out. And Dinsmore in the party scene is pretty funny, but the movie's too stupid to even know to make the most of having Hootkins on set, which is sort of disappointing when you revisit it. But another fun role in a cheesy film. And if you thought you'd seen all the cheesy 80s movies, it's better than some of the ones you've seen. It's better than Megaforce. It's better than Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin, which, Joel, do you mind if I get a Metal Storm thing off my chest right now? I know this is not related.
All right. I don't have my moment. No, you don't I don't need your help. Sounder. I just need your permission
to. Okay. Sometimes a movie has spoilers in its title. They're right there in the title. Susan saves the world. That why even show up for that? You know what happens at the end. She saves the world. It says it right in the title. But that aside, Metal Storm, Destruction of Jared Sin contains no Metal Storm. And by the end of the movie, Jared Sin remains undestructed. Not cool, Metal Storm. Not cool. I didn't know when that would come up again, so
I'm just going to offer this up, having not partaken in Metal Storm. Could the
Metal Storm?
No, I've not.
Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone?
Missed that one.
What? Come on, you guys! What were you?
I'm
you guys
sure
have dates or something in 1984 that I didn't have? What was going on here?
I'm sure I have the choice of Metal Storm or another rewatch of Ice Pirates. And I'm always going to choose Ice Pirates.
Well, you made the right choice, I have to say.
It's a hard one there. Or maybe watch Raiders again.
An actual good movie.
If I may, could the destruction of Jared Sin possibly have been internal?
It could not have been. Now, again, spoiler for Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin. What about Yor, the Hunter from the Future?
I remember Yor.
All right, good. Finally.
I remember Yor. Yep.
Look, I don't know.
Biggles, An Adventure in Time. Stick it right in the middle of that stuff. That's the kind of movie we're talking about. And
folks, if you want to see Biggles' Adventure in Time, you can find it on YouTube, apparently for free.
Nice.
Well, there you go.
Films for free. So
enjoy.
Guess what I'll be doing at some point
with Biggles. All right. Well, let's
back to Hootkins.
Speaking of destruction, we're going to talk about American Gothic. Hootkins playing Teddy in American Gothic.
Joel,
the family that stays together.
Joel, I have never seen American Gothic. I don't know if Hootkins is good in it, and I don't care. But the reason this film is here is because in case our friend of the show, Michael Klug, who is not going to watch this episode because he doesn't really support the show very much, if we're being honest. It's just tell the truth. No, he does. He shares our show, I think, every week. He's super supportive, but he doesn't have time to sit through 2 hours of this like you good folks. God bless you all. It's here because if we do a show on William Hootkins, in the future, I just know if he interacts with this content of the show at all, we will hear, "Did you talk about American Gothic?" And originally, the answer to that would have been no, we did not, sadly, talk about American Gothic. And now, Joel, despite the fact that we did not talk substantively about American Gothic, we can say, yes, we mentioned American Gothic, Michael. You may now calm down and go back to ranking Friday the 13th movies.
Well, here's where I will add a little substantive content. I don't know if that's a word.
You got there.
But movie, despite it, I love this little bit of trivia. It just says, despite its name, it was shot in Canada. And
very clearly shot in Drumheller, Alberta, where the Smallville scenes in Superman were shot. Yes.
So, but that makes perfect sense. Hootkins, with his union card as from England, would be able to just slide right on in,
scoop on over there. Although all those TV shows you mentioned, Cagney and Lacey, all that he would need to be in SAG to be in any of those. So he really was he really everywhere. Did it all on multiple continents, and that's kind of neat.
So after he finishes up rocking out as Teddy in American Gothic, which I'm sure was an iconic performance.
It might have been. I mean, maybe he was some guy. I mean, it's a good fit. Some farmer horror movie, where these people kill all these people. Maybe he has a great death scene in it. It's all possible. I just haven't seen it, and I'm not likely to.
We do get that he does appear in the same year as Harry Howler in Superman 4, The Quest.
Nuclear vision expert.
Yes.
Pinstripe, double-breasted suit wearing Harry Howler in Superman, The Quest for Peace. Beyond that, anyone else want to take over for this one? Brian, you look like you're ready to say something.
I want to say something because we were talking about it before the show. Folks, when you Google this, it's not the Howler that shows up in the Harry Potter film Chamber of Secrets. Nope, that's not the same Howler we're talking about.
It's not Harry Potter.
Nope, Harry Potter, not at all. Not related.
Somebody was sent a Howler, which spells the same way. Yeah.
Nope, this is all The Quest for Peace, about how nuclear fission and anything nuclear is bad. That's basically the premise.
It's bad.
It's bad. And Harry explains it all to you.
Yep.
And then Superman goes on a quest for peace, which is his quest to rid the world of nuclear weapons. And it's terrible. I mean, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, is as bad as you've heard. It is really awful. Would it be better if 40 to 49 minutes that were cut out of it were put back in it? It would be. It would still suck, but it would be at least what they intended to show you. What it is now is a movie that sucks, that also has had any connective tissue that might have been useful to it taken out of it.
Yeah.
And it's just this short breeze of a blink of an eye bit of cheaply made canon film nonsense. Mm-hmm. And even Superman 3, which you have your problems with, is just nothing like this level of incompetence, despite Sidney J. Fury directing, is a decent enough director, and other talented people working on it. It just is wrongheaded and dumb. But Harry Howler is right out of a comic book, man. He's super entertaining and funny. I mean, I don't want to say it's like a good thing in the movie necessarily, but it's a great role for him that deserves a better movie, if we're being honest. I mean, Gene Hackman showing up for this thing. My goodness. I hope that he got paid a lot. Maybe he just had fallen on hard times. I don't know.
No, I'm pretty sure he got paid a lot. I mean, this was also.
But did he from Canon? What did they have a lot to even pay him? It doesn't feel like they had a lot for anything. So I always question, how did he end up in this? It has a very I've never seen the film sort of vibe to it. Where you're just like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's what is this? You guys, what? Christopher Reeve has a story credit in it, and you're just like, dude, you thought this up and thought this was a good idea?
I don't know if maybe that story credit isn't necessarily for adding to it?
It's for the nuclear thing. That was his idea. Yeah. That's where the story credit comes from. He didn't write the screenplay or anything, but the great thing about Harry is he's a scientist. He's ridiculous, and it's a very fun role for him. But it's weird when in Sphinx, even, which is not a good movie by any stretch. You could argue that about a few of these. It's not it. It's like his appearance is welcome somehow, and there's a dignity to its silliness, even in the shitty Pink Panthers 6 and 7 or whatever they were. You know what I mean? You were like, oh, okay, I get it. In this, it's like, wow, here's a guy in a bigger role than normal, giving it his all, having a good time, and it's for nothing. It's for naught. And you sense that right from the get-go in almost every scene in this film. I will say one thing, though. Harry Howler, by the rules of comic books, I mean, in Superman 5, he should have became some sort of hero, right? With that alliterative name? Or am I wrong about that?
Or a werewolf of some sort,
he should have become some sort of either a hero or a sidekick or a villain of some kind.
Something, but the double H's suggests a dark future or a heroic future for this guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just something to point out that we will never see come to fruition, as canon mercifully, after 13 years of making absolute schlock crap, folded their tent shortly after Quest for Peace.
And the first movie we've mentioned that doesn't have a meat joke with
the very first taxi driver. No.
Oh yeah, but they didn't really give him a name, but yeah, there we go.
I did write a friend of the show, Michael Kluge, text saying, "Do you have any comment on William Hootkins's performance in American Gothic?" And he just says, "Fantastic work as Teddy. Porkins likes necrophilia."
Now maybe we should see it, huh?
All right.
My interest. Yep.
Thanks, Michael, for that contribution to the show. That's very impressive. We appreciate that. I just knew he didn't show up in a low budget horror movie like American Gothic to be in a tiny walk on role. Maybe he did. Maybe he's the store owner or something. But it felt like he was something in that movie, and it sounds like he really was. So it's good that we did mention it, folks.
Yep.
Teddy's into necrophilia. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, there we go.
Yikes.
Next up is I would say, aside from Porkins, well, I mean, Major Eaton is a pretty big role too, but I mean, he gets a pretty nice showy role in
his last role, the one you're about to name. There's a few other things to talk about because he was in some significant movies and some really great B horror movies after this, but his last big fanboy significant pop culture genius achievement, Joel,
was as Lieutenant Eckhart in Batman.
I'm Batman.
Yes,
I'm Batman.
The movie that started it all for the Batman series. If you look at the modern Batman series, like everything stems from that, and they've been trying to top that movie ever since.
It's hard to top. I mean, it's silly, and they've made Batman more serious, and they've gotten back to Batman's detective roots, and they've done a lot of great stuff with Batman. But from a monster hit, movie of the year, comic book film with, I mean, it was a big budget film for '89, but it didn't have any of it has no CG of any kind in it. Even the cityscapes and stuff are all old fashioned matte paintings. Everything is done physically or with models. And yet you feel the adventure. You are not bored. The fights are not lame. They're super fun. The gadgets are awesome. The vehicles are super cool. And the performances across the board. And obviously Nicholson as Joker at the time, you couldn't have done any better than that. Nicholson showed up. He'd been adrift a bit in 80s films. Not that he'd been bad in them necessarily, but he really was a 70s film guy and was, we've talked about it, was at the heart of sort of 70s cinema verite and all that. And it just, this was it. This was his shot, and he knew it, to make a silly, over-the-top, fun 80s adventure movie. And just, he really does knock it out of the park. That they almost create the role around him, the Napier / Joker character. But throughout the film, Jack Palance, these sort of bit players, of which you would have to argue that certainly that Lieutenant Eckhart is my favorite Eckhart moment. And he's great. He's just his face barely moves when he talks. It's like a fully sort of realized guy again by Hoot in this role, who knows he's in a big movie, in a big expensive film with big movie stars. Like, it's a totally different kind of thing he's bringing to the party. But my favorite moment with Eckhart is he's not even in the scene. It's at the little charity casino thing, and they're talking about how they're breaking down Axis Chemical tonight, and it's the cop reporting to the commissioner, and the commissioner's like, "What? Why haven't I heard about this? Who's in charge?" And the uniform guy goes, "Eckhart, sir." And Pat Hingle, "Oh my God! Okay, get going. Like, he's not even there, and yet his reputation within the cops is this. Oh, okay, it's the the guy we all know as this bent, awful dude. And that's my favorite moment. It may not have gotten mentioned if there was somebody else in the show, but Brian, maybe you can talk about some of the highlights of actual Eckhart when he first meets his antagonism toward, the psychos, as he calls it. Yeah. I deal with the boss directly. I don't deal with the psychos, is what he says. A fantastic line reading.
Palpable disdain in that delivery, and it's like, damn. Like, Hootkins knows how to nail these things.
People remember ads with a catchy song. So to help you remember that, Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance.
Oh,
that's an insurance ad.
That is.
I hope we get some money for that, Joel. All right.
Seriously.
Yeah, we're supposed to be able to hear that. Sorry, I don't know why that. I thought
you're looking for a nice ad, and you were not supposed to hear the ads on the thing.
Yeah, I'm looking for the ads. Always trying to
always shopping for insurance in your free time. Yep, no, I get what you're trying to do. You did earlier with these little sound clips. We weren't supposed to hear that. Although we heard a little preview of our B segment coming up here earlier today by accident too. So
yeah.
Zoom maybe not fully cooperating with the William Hootkins show. Shame on you, Zoom.
Well, it is April Fool's, so
yeah.
Well, and even spoiler alert for Batman 1989, but even Eckhart's demise, where he's like, "Hey, Eckhart," his turnaround to face camera is so like it's the most labored, uninterested, and yet still like it takes effort for this guy to turn around in his trench coat and stuff. This wet, gross city that he works in. He's like, "Bleh," and he sort of scowls and growls before he gets shot. It's awesome because Grissom, I guess the reason I think of Jack along with Hoot in this is because Grissom, it's the passing of the old mobster Dick Tracy sort of bad guys. And we're, Batman, like it's often explored, is elevating crime fighting to this level of legend versus monster. And that's not necessarily a good elevation for anybody, even in a corrupt, awful place. You would much rather deal with the Eckharts of the world than the psychos, as he says.
Because at least you know what you get with the Eckharts, right?
Exactly. And the film demonstrates that. The cops know he's dirty, and yet he's still a cop. The boss of all the cops know he's dirty, and he's still a cop because, hey, this is the way of the world until the way of the world becomes shocked into some other reality. And Burton's film is really smart, and Scarron and Sam Hamm's script is really smart in that all that truly is in there, and in a great way where it doesn't stop the fun to examine or explore those themes.
You don't feel like you're being lectured to, or that you have to sit through some sort of case study of, well, here's where the things went wrong. And
I mean, the Christopher Nolans do that. They attack it in that way, and they're still good. But this film is first and foremost a fun cartoon film, and it's not a cartoon, but it really is as cartoony as you get for a live action film.
Yep.
And Hoot is fantastically cartoonish while still brilliantly underplayed. Like, it really is, in terms of nerddom, it really is the perfect capper to his career in that 10 plus year span where he just entertained us to death, basically.
Hit it, Hoot.
I answer to Grissom, not to psychos.
Why, Eckhart, you ought to think about the future.
There we go. That was a little quiet. I wish it was a little bit louder, but
it's a great face-off where Eckhart gets pissed and he pulls his gun out on Jack, and Tracy is right there behind him, his loyal side guy to face off. Better think about it. I mean, all that is Eckhart just trying to get his gun out, man. I mean, think we could have been spared the Joker altogether if he just wasn't so awkward with all that stuff and could have just shot him in the face.
Again, that shows the character who can't be bothered with any of this stuff. So corrupt. He probably hasn't drawn his gun from his holster in pages. Is not operates
in the most corrupt city. The one corrupt cop on the take, like his job is not very difficult, and that take on the character, it's a little bit on the page, but it's mostly just. What am I dealing with this stuff for? Like, I'm not going to get even in the shootout. He's not in the shootout. He's wandering around. He's just not taking part anymore. Just give me my cut.
Yep.
And F off.
And I'm done.
That's really great. And all comes across. And again, not a super limited amount, but still a quite limited amount of screen time. He's fantastic in that role.
And I don't think any other character actor could have done a better job than Hootkins in that.
It's hard to imagine anyone else doing it. That's one of the joys of it. I completely agree.
So this next film, The Pope Must Die, and then they added a T for the US version, The Pope Must Diet.
Didn't want to offend the Pope.
Yeah. Oh, heaven forbid.
But Robbie, so a less than qualified and far from perfect priest is mistakenly named the new pope. And as the pontiff, he must deal with Vatican corruption, the mob, and the reappearance of his old lover. Robbie Coltrane is the titular pope.
Fun, and stupid late 80s comedy is Cardinal Verrucci. Am I remembering that right?
Yep, Cardinal Verrucci.
So again, there's not much to this role. He's the fat cardinal who's in the little conclave of cardinals that, it's classic Hoot. It's funny. It's memorable. Just, even when he's just sitting there and not doing anything, his presence is felt. I don't have a lot to say about The Pope Must Die. But that it is funny. It would have been funnier if they didn't have to change the name. It's one of those sad films where it didn't even get to be the movie it was because there was this stupid controversy around it. But it's the what it reminds me of, and it partly because he has played priests, cardinals, and popes in cameos many times throughout the years. The guy that who takes his inspiration from in this film is Dom DeLuise, and if you're thinking about that, you're pretty much on the right track, and it's not bad. Have you seen this, Brian?
When it came out, but
you don't really. It's a lot of movies.
I haven't seen it since. So
a few things coming up on this list. I'm like, I saw him, but who was he in it again? Like,
like Haunted Honeymoon. I'm like, I don't know.
He was quote reporter in that, so he must have been right there at the very beginning when they were talking about going to, So again, a little bit role, but reporter.
Yep. Well, I mean, I guess you can
Flank.
Yeah,
Flank Jackson.
Yeah,
Flank. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
Back to
we might as well name the taxi driver and
ground beef Thomas.
100% USDA choice Smith.
Yep.
Cutlet Jones.
No, in that way, I think it should be John Cutlet. That's even better.
John Cutlet, yeah.
Yes. I like that.
Okay,
I like Cutlet as a proper surname.
Well, where the river runs through it, I'm sure it was probably like Trout Murphy was his name.
It might have been. It would have been appropriate, right?
Murphy in well, he also was before I get to River Runs Through It here. He also was the Bark Troll and the voice of Falcor in the Never Ending Story. A 3. Apparently, they made 3 of them.
It's right there in the title.
Yeah, there it is.
It never ends.
All right, so he was in A River Runs Through It, and he played Murphy, and I don't remember him.
He's one of the, you know how the woman in it is hanging out with that guy who's clearly, you know, they take him fishing and he shows up late and then he gets the terrible sunburn and you basically meet his whole family. I could be, I even could be wrong about this, but I believe Murphy is in that scene and he's the uncle or whatever of that huge extended family in that really awkward scene where they all go. Because I don't think he's one of the bad guys in the bar or anything like that. I'm quite certain he's one of the upper crust of Missoula, Montana, circa whenever that movie takes place. And is one of the people who's appalled at the treatment of their most beloved and yet totally useless son, who we believe is a closeted homosexual or whatever. I'm not sure the movie plays as fair with that as the book does, that idea. It sort of plays it for laughs. And if you're going to play something for cheap laughs, why don't you get Hootkins in the room? It'll at least make the day go by in a more pleasant way. So that's that. But I mean, I think it's worth mentioning, again, here's a prestige Oscar nominated film that he's a part of. So he's not just, even in these bit parts, even if he's not putting clown makeup on, he's still basically doing cool work. So that's why I added it to the list, because mostly he was doing stuff like the next movie we're going to talk about.
Yes, he was. He was doing, he was playing the role of Krill in the Isle of Dr. Moreau.
And I love whenever the Island of Dr. Moreau remake comes up, or I guess there have been several versions of it throughout the years, but I mean, whenever the 90s Isle of Dr. Moreau comes up, whenever somebody's talked about being in it, Ron Perlman or Kilmer, or the kid from Northern Exposure, I can't remember his name anymore. It always says, and also appearing with Marlon Brando in Isle of Dr. Moreau, as if that's the only thing about it worth saying. And not only that, but just like you feel like you have to say it so that people will understand why you did it. Yeah, it always comes like as an excuse to appearing in any sort of role in that film. And yeah, Kirill's it's one of those weird heavy makeup roles. There's a whole bunch of them in it. He does as good a job as anybody, but it's not, it's weird. He's not really noticeable in it. Which just shows you how bad Isle of Dr. Moreau is. If you can stick William Hootkins in a film where he plays a half animal, half human, and he's not memorable, your movie sucks. Because how can you not nail that?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, you know, and hey, we'll look the other way. Hootkins was very, very memorable in Hardware, which, did we skip that? We must have, because this was supposed to be Richard Stanley's next film.
Oh, shoot. Yes, I did. I jumped right. I was so stunned by the Pope Must Diet. Well, let's talk about Hardware. We can go back.
But the point is, Richard Stanley had made this low-budget sort of sci-fi horror film, Hardware, and when it came time to make his dream film, The Isle of Dr. Moreau, he brought his friend, who was very fun and very memorable in Hardware, in a little stupid role, where in this case, where he, and we'll play you almost the entire performance, at least the crux of the entire performance here in a second, where he came on set and was like, hey, and the director said, you know, hey, try whatever. There's a great John Hurt, who's not really related to this topic. There's a great quote of his, because he's been in lots of 70s improvisational roles. Alien comes to mind, where half of what he's saying really isn't even in the script. and yet it's still really, really memorable. But he was talking about Elephant Man. He's like, I didn't change a word from that script. And he goes, and I'll improvise if it gets you somewhere. This is a great way of saying it. I'll do it if it gets you somewhere. Yeah. But I would rather there be a script that a writer wrote than to have to show up and write it myself. But in some cases, perhaps Hardware being one of them, sometimes you just say, hey, man, got any ideas? I mean, this guy's just here for this scene where he tries to, get her out of this thing and then he's killed or whatever. Anything you want to do. And of course, she said it, that in this case, Stanley said it to the right guy. And what he did was absolutely hilarious. It got him a double credit in the movie. It made them have to get rights to a song that they weren't planning on. All this stuff of legend on low budget filmmaking. But Stanley he had him in stitches. He loved him in it. Like, he really thought he was great. So he's like, hey, I got it. It's my dream thing. His dream crashed and burned, of course, and Isle of Dr. Moreau. He didn't even get to finish it. That's a story we've told before and we'll no doubt tell again. But there's the connection. It's why he's in both films, is because Stanley loved what he did with Hardware, where he played this. He's supposed to be rescuing her, but really he almost plays it like a plumber who showed up but doesn't know what he's doing. And the best part of the performance is the song that he sings, and we'll play that for you now.
Here we go. Link, and I love that it's actually titled Link the Creeper.
Link the Creeper. Link, also not unmeat related.
Yeah.
Link is not unmeat related, folks.
It's not unmeat related, yeah. All right, here's Link.
What if I sing? You want me to sing?
I don't really care. Just get us out of here.
Okay. Oh, we all walk the whipperly wobberly walk, and we all talk the whipperly wobberly talk. Oh, we all wear whipperly wobberly ties, and we look at all the pretty girls with wibbly wobbly eyes. I made that up.
Oh, he did not make it up.
No, not the slightest.
I made that up. It's so good.
It's really
favorite
funny.
Part. So talking about, like, just come up with something.
Be warned, Hardware. Watch out for Hardware. It's got a really good rep, and it's got that in it, which makes it maybe seem like it's fun, but do beware of it. It is pretty intense and really vulgar and bloody film.
But I will give. I mean, to show, like, because clearly this was not on the page. It's like, should I sing for you? And she's like,
I mean, I'm sure he didn't just do it when the cameras were rolling. Yeah. They found it in rehearsals or whatever. But yeah.
But here's what's brilliant about it is he goes, should I sing for you? And she's like, yeah, whatever. And he just goes, and maybe you could hear it a little bit in that. But he's just like, he counts himself in, and I love that. I love that little choice. He takes a couple extra seconds to just like, okay, if I'm going to do this.
Well, and you can tell there's those breaks in there where whether this is acting or whether it's genuine, it's equally brilliant either way. Where he's trying to remember the words. There before the final stanza, there's a big pause. That's again very, very memorable in a movie that has nothing to do with any of that. That's fun.
And Pat, I mean, there's plenty. It makes it
continued on for years and years.
Yeah,
he was in lots of Hardware like stuff, Death Machine, and he shows up in Moon 44 and some other stuff. But
lots of voice work. Lots of TV appearances. So I mean, William Hootkins, man. William Hootkins had himself a career, and he probably, he passed away in 2005 from cancer. So he was still relatively relatively young. He was only 57 when he passed. You know, he wouldn't even, you know, he'd be about 65 now. So we might still be getting some good Hootkins.
From a character actor standpoint, I mean, he'd been in his prime since then. So yeah, absolutely. It's, you know,
totally.
Who knows what we do? And with all this content, I mean, he easily could have been a recurring guy on a TV show or something. Anything could have happened.
Yeah, I would have liked to have.
He could do it all.
And I would like to think that maybe, you know, whether it's on Andor or one of these Disney Plus series, maybe we could have even had a return of Jack Porkins.
Yeah.
Well, and Porkins, even though for all the comic things that are built into it, to go back where we started, to end where we started, I mean, he plays that straight. Like, that's a character where we could see him show up as part of the Rebel Alliance in a straight scene. Yeah. And I would have liked to seen that. In fact, I would have liked to seen more of that. His comic instincts and his comic timing and his own wit and his own sense of humor about himself is obviously what made his career as we remember it. But I would have been neat to see him, you know, get to have roles of substance that had some dramatic heft to them. I would have liked that. And I think that might have come more than what we experienced ultimately, because I think that's where his career at his age could have turned a corner and been something else. I lament that, but man, the memories that guy gave us, man, the wibbly wobbly walk, you know, he's worth giving tribute to for all the jokes. He's worth it because he's just, he really did the job of a guy in that role to a T. And every moment we spend with him is like a neat, treasured moment to me. So I don't know what else. What more can you ask from a guy with that job?
Yeah,
right?
You really can't. Yeah. You really can't. All right. So I hope you enjoyed our tribute to William Hootkins. I did create a little game for Ryan and Brian to participate in, inspired by Jack Porkins. And this is going to be a little, I'm using the what do you do, but it's kind of a this or that, which we hear in this theme. So I'm going to go ahead and give us a what do you do?
I don't know.
What do you do?
What do you do? I don't know.
What do you do?
I don't know. What do you do?
What do you do?
Seriously, what should I do?
I don't know. Maybe this one?
Okay, so inspired by Jack Porkins, I'm going to name I'm going to give you the names of two characters from the Star Wars universe. And you have to tell me which one is actually a name and which one is something that my wife, and my son made up. Now, you can choose one, or you can choose both and say, I think both of those are characters. But at least one of these is always going to be a real character in the Star Wars universe. Okay. So I will start with. Are you guys ready? Do you need a moment? Do you need any clarifications on the rules?
That it could be both really threw a wrinkle into this that I think is playing unfair with us very much. So just for the record, before we begin formally, I'm still prepared to play the game, Joel, but I just want you to know.
Well,
you know what?
Let's see.
The only thing that make it worse is if you said they could also be neither.
No. There will always at least be one. These are too good to
then we'll let you off the hook.
Okay. So the first one is Babu Frick or Nasto the Dude.
Nasto the Dude is fake. Babu Frick is real.
Babu Frick is definitely real of the two, although both are hard to believe.
Yeah, and Babu Frick is one of my favorite characters.
Is he?
Yes, just because of his little moment in the final, in the Rise of Skywalker, when he's like, "Hey!"
Just one of the very few good things to come out of that film was Babu Frick.
All right. Next up,
Babu Frick had more screen time than Dennis Lawson had in it.
Yeah,
that's true. Stomaroni Stark or Yarrail Poof?
I'm going with Poof.
Both are fake.
Well,
they can't both be fake. Well, at least one has to be real.
Fake.
I'm going with one who's real.
Okay, yeah, then I'm going to go with
Stomaroni Stark and Yarrail Poof.
It's the Yarrail part that sounds very Star Wars-y, and if you made that up, then hats off to you, but I think it's Yarrail Poof that's real.
Yeah, same.
Both are real.
Both are real? What the
Stomaroni Stark.
What did you say? You were doubly wrong, Brian. You were like, both are fake.
At first, I thought both of them were fake because they do sound very, very fake. Yeah.
All right.
Do I get half credit for that one then, at least?
Sure. Next up is Dexter Jetster or Jet Tila.
Dexter Jetster can't be real, or whoever came up with that should be fired from their job. So I'm going to go with the other one.
Jet Tila?
Yeah.
Jet Tila. See, I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say
Dexter Jetster you're getting behind?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't put anything past these people, but I'm just saying that's a terrible name one way or another.
Yeah.
Dexter Jetster is indeed a real character in the Star Wars universe. Side note, Jet Tila is a chef, and he's a real person too, but he's not in the Star Wars universe. He's a chef he's often seen on
it
Food
sounded
Network.
real to me, so good one. Good trick. I fell for that.
Well done.
I love this. I'm giving away the store on this one, but I love this next name. Cheerio Grudgeball.
Who?
Cheerio Grudgeball. Or Plo Koon.
Plo Koon's real. The Cheerio Grudgeball's fake.
When my son came up with,
there's no hope for justice in the world anymore.
When my son came up with Cheerio Grudgeball, I howled. I laughed so hard. I loved Cheerio Grudgeball so much.
He's got to make a drawing and do a bit of fan fiction on Cheerio because we would all read and partake in that. That guy sounds like somebody who's got a story to tell.
Cheerio Grudgeball.
Yeah. Is he soggy? Like angry?
He's pissed off about something, or you using the wrong name.
Mm-hmm. All right. Up next is Antonio LaFaso or Elon Sleazebagano.
Well, there is an Elon Sleazebagano in reality, but not in Star Wars.
So it must be the other guy by default, you're saying.
Yeah.
Antonio LaFaso?
Yeah.
Ryan, is that what you're saying too?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm trusting Brian to know what he's talking about, but yes.
Antonio LaFaso is another chef on Food Network.
God damn it.
Elon Sleazebagano is an actual character in the Star Wars universe.
Oh, Jesus.
Which shows you that how Cheerio Grudgeball is really pretty close to the mark.
Yeah.
If you can have Antonio Sleazebagano in it, then good Lord.
Elon Sleazebagano is in Attack of the Clones. And he's the guy who's like, I don't want to sell you death sticks.
Oh, that's Elon Sleazebagano. He's my favorite.
That dude. Oh, my God. The interactions with that dude are fucking hilarious. I didn't know his name was Elon Sleazebagano.
Best part of Attack of the Clones by far.
Yep.
I want to go home and rethink my life. That guy is fantastic. Mm-hmm. And an excellent use of Jedi, power of suggestion powers, in my opinion.
You don't want to sell me.
I feel like Elon's really turning a corner in that moment. Like he's really is going to live better.
I like this that it just says the last we saw of Mr. Sleazebagano, he was headed outside to rethink his life.
Right.
I'm glad you brought up that guy because he is great, and that's a great name for him because but it's an unfair name because it's a name you never hear. In which case you can really call him whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a cheat on Lucas's
part.
part.
On picking that one. Yeah.
Yep.
That's great.
Okay.
It sounds totally made up and bullshit.
100%.
Next up is Wal Cabashite or Kit Fisto.
Kit Fisto,
I know is
Kit Fisto was there at the end when the Emperor becomes the Emperor, man. He was the first guy through the door, second guy to die.
Yep.
Kit Fisto's a legend. Plus, he's got
Kit
the
Fisto's
most
legend,
curvy, sort of weird name of any of the Jedi of his era.
Yep.
And he won the award for that in a poll on The Onion, if I remember correctly. So you guys would recognize Kit Fisto if we showed you to him. He's featured a lot in the prequels, just kind of in the background or whatever. And I'm not ashamed to say it, goes out like a chump.
He does go out like a chump.
He contributes almost nothing to that confrontation.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mace Windu, he kind of goes out like a chump too. But by comparison to Kit Fisto, he at least, he's holding his own for a bit.
Yep.
It's really only Anakin interfering that sends Mace Windu flying out the window. Spoiler alert for Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen it.
I'm just trying to find. I was trying to find where I.
And I apologize to everybody for the serious discussion of Kit Fisto. That this game does not call for that, and yet I couldn't help myself.
Good old Kit Fisto. Yeah, Kit Fisto. But I feel a little bit disingenuous because Wool Cabashite is also a real character.
Who's he?
That's what I'm trying to find because I knew you were going to.
It sounds real. Walt Cabashite sounds like that sounds Star Warsy. It doesn't sound nearly funny enough to be fake.
Okay, so Walt Cabashite is AKA Goal. Okay, Jabba's palace. He's in Jabba's palace, and he's like hanging from the ceiling, and he's got this giant tongue that's just sticking out. It's notable for giving C3PO a lick as he presents Luke Skywalker's ultimatum to Jabba.
Oh my God.
Yep. So apparently he has a name, and he is Wool Cabashite.
All right then.
All right. Okay. Unkar Plut or Nincompoopolis?
Unkar Plut from I know he's a pretty famous character actually from Something Awakens. So that's the right, and there's no way that Nincompoopolis or whatever that guy's name was.
Yeah, I'm agree with Ryan on this one.
That's another strong.
I appreciate the attempt to get a Greek character into the Star Wars story, but I don't think his name would be Nincompoopolis.
Nincompoopolis. I got it. Again, that was too good.
We should get a clip of Webster going, Mr. Nincompoopolis and Mrs. Nincompoopolis.
Okay.
Right? They're the ones that adopted Webster, or am I remembering that wrong?
Papadopoulos.
Oh.
Papadopoulos, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. And
the reason why he calls her ma'am is because he that's as close as he can come to saying mom.
Papadopoulos?
he calls Mrs. Papadopoulos ma'am. Okay, next up. Troik Mu Troik or Moma Nadone?
Well, I don't know. They both could be real, but I'm going with Maymol Nadome. The second one for sure is real.
I'm going to go with both of them.
I think they're both. Yeah,
I mean, the second one is real. It's the first one I'm hesitant on, but it sounds like it could be a Star Wars.
Let's see. Moma Nadone is indeed a character.
Yeah.
But no Troik Mu Troik.
Is not.
You know who Moma Nadone is? Or Moma Nadon. It could be Nadon. Okay. That's Hammerhead. We always call, everyone Hammerhead.
Oh, okay. We all called him Hammerhead.
Yep. All right. Next up. Ponda Baba or
Ponda Baba. He's real, baby.
Yeah, and
he is real as rain.
Yeah.
Or who?
Dudbolt.
Dudbolt sounds sort of real too.
It does. But
I mean it sounds fake, but it sounds like one of those fake ones that might be real. That's a tricky one. So the first one's real for sure.
Yep. Agree.
because I even know who that is, but I don't know about the second one. That's a hard one. I'll say real, but I feel like I'll
say fake.
Yeah.
Okay. It is real.
Again.
Deadbolt is he's the dude he's one of the pod racers in Phantom Menace, and his is the one who blows up right away. I believe is his is
half
his
of them blew up right away.
No, Deadbolt. Or is Deadbolt might be the one where when Sebulba tosses tosses a bolt back or whatever, and it goes into his thing. But anyway, that dude's name is Deadbolt.
Nice.
All right, next up, Gross Nostro or C.O. Bibble.
Those are both real.
Yeah.
C.O. Bibble is, of course, one of the advisors to the Queen against the Trade Federation
of Naboo, right? Yep,
of Naboo,
I knew that one. But the first one got to be real. I just don't know who it is.
Yeah, Gross Nostro does not exist.
Gross Nostro. I thought he'd be some. You should be sending these names into somebody, man.
Right. I thought
Gross Nostro is a great name for a big-nosed CG character in one of the prequels. I have to say.
Yeah. I was racking my brain, going, which senator was that? Like,
yeah. Oh, Senator Gross Nostro. Yeah, that's perfect. Senator Gross Nostro.
That'd be the ultimate thing if you were to make up a name and it turned out it was already a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't search far enough, and it was like, oh yeah, no, that dude's real.
No, it was. And this
might be one of the
that guy.
Might be one of the only times we get a letter to the show is some guys like,
hey, Gross Nostro is real. Gross Nostro.
Yeah, we know Gross Nostro.
In the battle of Epipoli, he was.
If you're that person, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening, and please write us.
You found kindred spirits, but you've also tolerated a lot of sort of mistakes and miscues by us, so we appreciate that very much.
All right, Sweet Conquer Kill, or Sweet Conquer Kill, or Mun's Loda.
Mun's Loda
is real. There's no way Conquer Kill can be real. No. And if he is, that's just a joke that isn't fair to anybody.
Sweet Conquer Kill.
So Sweet Conquer Kill is in Revenge of the Sith.
Oh my God.
Get out. Really?
And weirdly enough, he is Senator Sweet Conquer Kill. He is in at that time, Chancellor Palpatine's he's at the opera with him. Like he's like good buddies with the Chancellor.
One of those weird looking guys. Yeah.
One of those weird dudes. Yeah. That's Senator Sweet Conquer Kill. Sadly, Mun's Loda only exists in my head.
So we were totally wrong, man. You
God.
Duped us. You've duped us as many. I mean, we know Star Wars pretty good.
Yeah.
You've duped us almost every time where we didn't absolutely know who the character was.
Yep. Yeah. Well done.
Well, unbelievable.
Thank you. All right. Next up is Elo Asti or Slow and Low.
See, I don't trust myself.
No, you can't even. Neither of those guys sound legit. They probably both are.
Don't.
I'll go with both since that's the opposite of what I think.
Slow and Low sounds fake. Man, that sounds like a porn.
Slow and Low does sound fake.
Name.
But
like, come on.
But Elon Sleaze Bago or whatever. I mean, that's really what blew this open into. Even the fakest sounding dumb thing could be real.
Yeah.
And we've not recovered since then, to my knowledge.
Still going to go with it. The porn name does not fit Star Wars.
That's a good point. Okay, I'll go with the first one too. I'm gonna change my answer to the first one's real, the second one's fake.
Should have stayed with both of them are real.
Oh, damn it. Okay.
J.J. Abrams has a habit of has a thing about trying to work in Beastie Boys references to everything. So Elo Asti is Hello Nasty.
Yeah.
And that dude is if you saw his picture, you'd absolutely go, oh, that guy, because he was this kind of weird looking alien dude, but he was a pilot for the one of the guys attacking Starkiller base in The Force Awakens. Yep. And Slow and Low also from Let me find
Force Awakens?
that one. Yeah, no, that's from The Last Jedi. And let's see.
He was in the casino or something?
He's the guy who tells them that they can't park their ship on the beach in Canto.
Right.
That dude
at the casino.
Oh my god! Like we never hear that guy's name.
Yep,
no,
slow and low. Well, we never hear any of
one
these guys'
nonetheless.
names.
I'm sure he has a very intricate backstory about how he ended up there.
I can tell you, L.O. Nasty is not as cool as Porkins. Period.
Yeah, sometimes a little less subterfuge in the naming it does go a long way.
Yeah,
Elon Sleazebago.
Sleazebago. All right, next up, Just Moko or Mart Matin.
Fuck, I'm gonna show myself out. Like
Just Moko, Mart Matin.
I'm gonna say
Just
both.
Moko.
So
I guess. I don't know,
real?
man. Just put us out of our misery and get through the rest.
I'm sorry. I feel bad. No, Mart Matin is a real person, and it's
and Just Moko is
being named after
Matt
Martin. Matt Martin, who's a member of Lucasfilm. He works for, so it's a takeoff on his name. And Just
so
Moko
it's a stupid name named after a real name.
Yeah,
which is what it sounds like. But
all right. Next, wait, Just Moko totally made up. Just Moko.
Okay, so I was half right.
Yeah. Let's see. Next up, okay, there's two characters, but I wanted to name them together here for obvious reasons. There's Klaatu and Barada, and then there or Abaka Che.
I believe Klaatu and Barada. Otherwise, why would you even be saying it? If you made that up, that's dumb. Because we all know what that is. So it must be some other actual Star Wars person being dumb and not Joel and his family being dumb. That's my bet. As to whether the other one is real or not.
Abaka Che.
It feels like it could be real, Abaka Che, or it could be real, but it's not in Star Wars. You know, you've really given us a lot of stuff to think about.
I'm going to go with the first one's real and the second one's fake.
Okay.
You guys are correct. Klaatu and Barada are the names of two of Jabba's henchmen.
Makes sense.
And Abaka Che was, I think, my son sort of trying to do a Pig Latin version of Chewbacca.
Nice.
Abaka Che. Yeah, I think that's where he got that one from.
Nice.
All right. Next up, Warm Loathsome or Tupper Wareheimer.
Oh my god. Okay, Tupper Wareheimer has to be fake, but Warm Loathsome is another porn name here, and it has to be real. So I'm gonna go.
So one of them has to be real. Yeah, it's the first one. I can't say for sure anymore, but the first one should be the one that's real, man, not Tupperware. Yeah. If they're really resorting to that in actual canon, then they should be brought out back and shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Sadly, Tupper Wareheimer does not exist. But I should give his honor his honorific. It's General Warm Loathsome.
Okay, good. And he's obviously a bad guy.
And in which battle did General Warm Lotion die?
He's in the Clone Wars.
Warm Loathsome, not Lotion. Yeah,
I don't know. It's getting close.
Warm Lotion. No, he is. He was part of a separatist movement.
A separatist movement in the prequels.
In the Clone Wars.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Next up is Garopolis Da or Milton Putna. I've broken them.
I give up.
Garopolis Da.
Garopolis Da, I think is real.
Or Milton Putna.
Milton Putna sounds fake.
What's the first one?
Garopolis Da.
So.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go with the first one too. And
you need to run this game.
Although they could both be real for all we know. This game hurts my head.
Lieutenant Milton Putna appears in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And Garopolis Da does not exist.
Oh, man.
Yep. All right. The last one. Finally, the last
Brian's
one.
whole complexion has changed. Look at him. He's like a tomato. Look what you've done to here. Brian, Joel.
I'm destroyed. You need to take this. You need to take this entire thing with these answers and go to Celebration and run it as a quiz and see how many other Star Wars
I would love. Oh, that would be fun.
Rip their shit up and walk away.
Well, you may have to. You may have to limit yourself to either or if you do that. So be aware. But still.
That's true. All right, next cheating. Up. Yep. Next up is, and the final one. Last up is Gorm Lubputter or Therm Scissor Punch.
It's not. It can't. Surely, it can't be Scissor Punch. Even though Love Butter is really, really weird,
Gorm Love Butter
can't be Scissor Punch. It can't be. It just can't be, Joel. It can't be Scissor Punch. So I'm going with the first one. I can barely speak the words at this point, but Brian, come on, say something. It's okay. Huh? Love Butter or Scissor Punch? You got to pick.
I've been on mute, dying laughing the entire time.
I didn't mute myself laughing. What are you doing?
No,
we should have been laughing together.
Muted
this is a radio show, after all.
How hard I was laughing, I accidentally muted myself.
Oh, man.
Love Butter, as porny as that name sounds, is going to be the real one. Because Scissor Punch sounds
that can't be the real one. It can't be, or I just no longer have the faith and the belief of a benevolent God.
All right. Let's quote directly from the official guide to Solo, a Star Wars story. Therm insists you call him Therm Scissor Punch. Though it's unknown if this is a nickname or he's desperately trying to create a name for himself. He is a gambler in Solo, a Star Wars story. Therm Scissor Punch is a real character.
Good God.
Gorm Lubputter is sadly will be a subject of fan fiction, I hope.
If I see either Kasdan walking down the sidewalk, I'm going to smack them in the face for Therm Scissor Punch.
Oh, Therm!
I have a lot to be grateful to them for, Silverado and all this stuff we talked about tonight with Hoot, but that's not cool, man. You made fools of us all, and it's just not.
You've got me questioning how close I pay attention to the Star Wars universe.
Well, you gotta remember, most of these.
You thought you were pretty badass, didn't you, Brian?
I did, and then this quiz show happened, and now I'm nobody.
Well,
we somehow went overtime again, even in the William Hootkins show. So probably time. Y'all
it is
catch
time
your
to
breath.
wrap it up. Yeah, you can reach out to us at the Movie Show with Joel and Ryan page on Facebook, and of course, if you are watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe. You can should also
with
subscribe.
Show ideas. We need some of
and you
those
should
right
also like us, subscribe to us, like us, give us a review. Give us a review on Apple Podcasts. That would be wonderful.
Goes a long way. A good review really goes a long way.
And I think that is going to do it for us this week. Brian, thank you so much for joining us.
Wouldn't have done the William Hootkins show with anybody else, man. I'm so glad you could come.
I appreciate it. Thank you both again. It's been a pleasure.
All right. So until next time, everybody, we wish you a fond cheerio grudge ball.
Thank you for listening to The Movie Show with Joel and Ryan. Remember, all views and opinions represented in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the speaker and do not represent those people, institutions, or organizations that the speaker may or may not be associated with, unless explicitly stated. None of these views and opinions were intended to malign or deceive. And now, here's the producers, circa 1982, to play us out.
Please refer to me as Therm Scissor Punch.